Hey, it's Peter in Peter's Kitchen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've got me a nice brisket here. It is actually, let's see what it is.
Sit back, relax. You are about to watch a Peter Gregg video. Something warm, human, and wonderful happens when you watch Peter Gregg.
It's a brisket, flat cut, right here. And it's a little bit over 2 pounds, $22. So we're talking some bucks here. The problem is people make brisket in the Instant Pot, and at the end they take it out, they cut it up, and they go, it's so delicious. When no, it's not. I have made 4 or 5 briskets. It's still not as good as my mom's brisket from what I remember, and it's not as good as Maria's brisket. Maria makes, Maria's my sister-in-law, makes brisket that is out of this world wonderful. So I tried it in the Instant Pot. It cooks great. It falls apart like they say it will. However, there's one problem. You chew it and you chew it and you chew it and you chew it, and you put a smile on your face in front of the camera or in front of your guests, and you go, oh, how wonderful it is, when it really, really isn't. However, I have cooked brisket 3 times now, and it came out perfectly every time. So I want to share with you how I make brisket in the Instant Pot that doesn't suck. It's not really hard to make brisket in the Instant Pot that doesn't, it's bad, okay? I actually heard it and learned the little secret from the gentleman over at Pressure Your Luck. Pressure Luck. If I could say that fast 5 times, right? Pressure Your Luck. So the secret combines with what my sister-in-law told me after the fact. Oh yeah, when I'm going to make brisket for dinner, I make it the day before. What? What's up with that? And Pressure Luck actually makes the brisket in a way where he puts it back in the pot for it to basically soak for 30 minutes or longer. Therefore, making it like that overnight thing. Now, I can tell you right now, it's going to taste better the next day, which is why I'm making dinner for tomorrow night tonight. I'm going to make it in here, and we're going to have it, I'm going to put it back in here to warm up, and we're going to have it tomorrow night. So let's get into making the brisket, okay? So I'm going to cut this open, and the point where we're going to cook it is where you're basically going to flavor the meat. That's what the cooking part is all about. I have tried it for 60 minutes. I have tried it for 80 minutes. I've tried it for 90 minutes. Doesn't make any difference, okay? So go for the full 90 minutes. There's a side that's got the fat on it, and then there's a side that doesn't have the fat on it. Am I going to do anything? No, I'm not. The only thing that I am going to do is I'm going to rinse the brisket, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I rinsed it and I'm patting it dry. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, we can all go home now, right? No. All right, so let's get to cooking the brisket. Now, there's 2 ways that I cook the brisket, okay? We're going to do method number A in this video, and I'll do another video showing you method number B. Both of these methods are designed to flavor the meat. So as creative as you can be in flavoring the meat, this is your time to shine, okay? So what I actually have for this method is the Lipton onion, it's a dry Lipton onion soup mix and dip mix. And I'm going to use 1 packet from there, and I'm going to pour it right into the Instant Pot, just like that. And then another secret is I'm going to open a can of beer. Boys and their toys, okay? And I'm going to pour in the whole bottle of beer. I said can, but this is a bottle. Yes, you could put beer and Coke and all that kind of good stuff into the Instant Pot. I'm going to take some kind of a device. In this case, this is a world-class fancy-dancy whisk. Nothing special. And I'm just going to stir that around and let the soup mix dissolve a little bit in the beer. because I want to cook this both ways and I don't want to buy another brisket, I'm going to cut this one basically in half. So I'm just going to take the knife, I'm going to cut it against the grain. Against the grain means if the grain is going this way, you're going to cut it that way. So you're basically making an X. Now I'm going to take some kind of a seasoning, which this one happens because I'm Greek. I happen to have all-purpose Greek seasoning in the house. And I'm going to season the front. I'm doing both of them. And then I'm going to season the backside, where all the fat is. No, I'm not cutting the fat off. No, 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 no. I want that fat on there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to season it even a little bit heavier on the fat side. And then I'm going to just kind of like pat it and rub it in. And I'm going to put one of my two pieces into the Instant Pot. I'm going to put the trivet in there first. This is important because I need to get it out. And the only way to get it out without making it fall apart, yeah, it will fall apart, but it'll be dry, dry, dry. You're just going to have to trust me. You're going to have to do it yourself to find out. So I'm actually going to put the meat on the trivet, okay, and I'm actually cooking half. Now, I could stack, if you had more, you could stack these up. Liketh, thateth, okay, but I'm not going to stack them up. So now I'm going to take it, I'm going to put it in, and I want to raise the water level enough so it's 3/4 of the way up on the brisket. I'm pouring the water in here, and I'm not going to wash off the seasoning off the top of the brisket. You see how I'm aiming it at the side? Kind of like that. And I can actually use another a cup of, actually this is a 2-cup thing. Okay, so I'm putting in a second one here, and it goes 3/4 of the way up on the brisket. You see how the fat is still out, but it's coming up very close to the top? So just like, just because I'm a guy, boys and their toys, I'm going to add a little more seasoning over the top in case I rinsed any off. And I'm going to call this version 1 because I'm going to make a version 2. Like that, a version 2, and you'll be able to see the difference. And again, it's all about the seasoning. I'm going to cook it the same way. I'm going to treat it the same way for version 2. So version 1 and version 2 are pretty much the same, except that the liquid's going to be different on version 2. It's going to give the brisket a little bit different taste. And the whole point is to get the seasoning down into the meat. Which reminds me, let me show you something interesting. I got me a sharp knife, and I'm going to actually just stab the meat a few times. It goes right through, no big deal, except that I'm making it go down a little bit into the water, which is washing off my seasoning, so I'm going to have to season it again. So all I did was stab it 6 or 7 or 8 times, okay? The whole point of that was actually, I'm going to put a little more seasoning on top because I kind of rinsed it off, okay? Is to let the juice soak in. So now I'm going to put the lid on the Instant Pot. Simple as pie. I'm going to turn the Instant Pot onto pressure cook. And then I'm going to press custom. For this particular one, this is the Instant Pot Pro. I have a link to this in the description. This is the newest model they have out. So basically, I'm going to pressure cook, custom, high, and the next thing is going to allow me to set the time. So you're going to want to set the time to 90 minutes. It doesn't matter. I found it, I've done all the different times. So in this particular one, it goes for an hour and 30 minutes is what's going to give me the 90 minutes. So I'm up to an hour and 30 minutes. All right, so let me show you how I set it up. I'll take a picture and put it up on the screen. There we go. Okay, let's... That's what the front of the Instant Pot looks like. And one more major thing, but I have done this before. Press the start button. Now it's starting to cook. Okay, I've closed it. And you see how easy it is to do the brisket? The next parts are going to be very key, very important. but I'm going to let this cook for 90 minutes, which is 1 hour and 30 minutes. It shows on the front of the Instant Pot Pro. Yours might not show 1 hour and the minutes. It might show 90 minutes. So that's what you're going to run into. All right, so after that, I'm going to let it do what's called the natural release. The difference between a regular, instant release and a natural release is the natural release is I wait to be able to open it up after it's finished cooling off. Okay, the instant release is where I press the lever on the top and all the psh comes out. So I'll be back in 90 minutes plus the cooling off time, and at that time I'll know how long it took to cool off, and I'll let you know, and then we'll go for there, because the next part is going to be the key to making this thing taste wonderful. With the magic of editing, it's been the full 90 minutes, and I'll tell you a secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. I went over there and sat in the chair to watch some TV while I was waiting for the 90 minutes to be finished. I kind of fell asleep. So it's been a 90 minutes plus an hour. So that means the natural release happened less than an hour because I can open it. So I would say, based on the last time that I did this, it was about 45 minutes, I think 35 to 45 minutes when the pressure actually got released. But because somebody around here fell asleep, I don't know who. Okay, so let's see what it looks like in here. This is what it looks like in the pot. The handles can be very hot, okay, but they're not that hot now because I've got it only set to warm. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to put it on the cutting board. Now this is the point where people will cut it and go like, oh, that tastes so good. No, it doesn't. Trust me. Okay, so now this is going to go in the refrigerator. All right, I'm going to put it in the freezer and I'm going to time it 15 minutes. I need this to cool down because if I go to cut this now, it's going to fall apart, and that's when people will show you how it is so tender that it falls apart. It's tender, but we have basically squeezed all the juices out completely of the meat. So I'm going to put it in the freezer, and then I will bring it back here and continue, and then we'll slice it up and I'll show you what we'll do next. Back in a moment. Fresh out of the freezer. So the purpose of putting it in the freezer for 15 minutes, you could put it in for 20 minutes. Don't forget it. Don't fall asleep like I did while I was cooking. Okay, so now I could pick it up and put it there and put the dish in the sink. Okay, so now the reason for that is so that I can cut it and it doesn't just fall apart. So now I'm going to cut it with the grain. I'm going to leave the fat on. Now, if the fat bothers you, you can cut the fat off because it won't matter, because we're going to put it back in there and let it soak for 30 to 35 minutes. Make sure your machine is set to warm. If it's not set to warm, hit the warm button and hit the start. Okay, so now I'm going to cut it. I'm going to see how it still falls apart? So I'm going to cut it in one direction. I'm going to keep my fingers out of the way of the cutting. Okay. Okay, so these will actually just be test units. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to test it. All right, so now I'm going to cut it. I actually found if I cut in one direction only, that I actually get some very nice slices. Now, this fat is actually in the way, so I'm going to cut the fat off. Now remember, it's cold now. I didn't just take this out of the heat. I actually put it in the freezer for 15 minutes, and I did use a timer. I suggest you use a timer. You don't want to freeze the meat. I'm going to throw the fat away. Okay, now I'm going to pinch the sides, and I'm going to cut back towards me. Out, cut back towards me. Out. When I say out, I mean I'm taking the knife out. Okay, so now I actually have a nice slice. So let's put the overhead camera on. so you could watch what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to keep my thumb out of the way. We don't want this to turn into an emergency room visit. And I'm just cutting it. And because it's cold, it will actually slice very nicely. I don't slice it too thin because it still has a tendency to fall apart. Now, obviously, you're not going to cook half of your brisket. You're going to cook the whole thing. The reason I cooked half is because this is version number 1, where I use the one piece for version 1, where I use the Lipton onion soup mix with a can of beer. Okay, so there's my slices. Okay, make sure they're all individually sliced. Now, this has to go back in, so I'm going to stand up the slices and I'm going to pinch them ever so slightly so that I can actually pick this up as one unit. Now, yours is going to be, this is for one meal, and this is why I cut it in half. Okay, so now I'm going to take and put this back in, and again, you're going to need to take it out when we're done. So I'm going to use the trivet again. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to set it up on the trivet. Make it so that the pieces will stay. Now, because I got the Instant Pot still warm with the original juices, I'm going to put it right in the juice. Going to separate them. Ow! That juice is hot. Be careful with your fingers. All right? I'm not going to do anything as long as the keep warm light is on. Now I'm going to time it for 35 minutes. And after 35 minutes, we're going to pull it out and I'm going to show you. And hopefully, if everything goes well, that is when we're going to have that, it tastes so good. Be back in 35 minutes. For you, 1 second. Okay, I'm so excited. The 35 minutes is up. So let's open this and see if we have tender and soft or tender and chewy. Okay, so I did put it back in the trivet, so I'm just going to lift this up. I'm going to bring it over to the cutting board. Those juices smell amazing. Oh, let me get a knife and a fork out of here. All right, this is the difference between just putting it in the Instant Pot and letting it do its 90 minutes or 80 minutes or whatever it is that you decide you're going to put it in for. It doesn't matter all that much. What really matters is you've got to cool it off, cut it up, and put it back in. Here's the piece here. Let's put it back on the plate. So I have a white background instead of a dark background. Now you would actually cook this completely, the whole piece. I cut it and did it in half. So now let's squeeze and see. Okay, now that is juicy. Can you see the juices on this camera? Yeah, that is juicy. So it absorbed. That's the reason for the 35 minutes. It rehydrated the meat because we pressure cooked it and squeezed it. If you don't want to go through all that, then go over to Baby Back Maniac, my buddy Justin, and he'll show you how to smoke one of these things. Now I'm going to take a little bite. Oh, it tastes so good. No, it really does. It's just about chewed. It's not that hard. Chew for 3 hours to get it down, even though it's like completely broken apart. I was able to chew it and swallow it. Now you know the secret on how to make brisket that doesn't suck. Now, if there's any brisket left over, you take the juice and the brisket, put it in a Tupperware in the refrigerator, because tomorrow it's going to be even more juicy. That's the secret. They cook it, they squeeze all the juice out of the meat, and then they act like it's absolutely deliciously wonderful. All right? And it's not. It's very fall apart. However, the fall apart doesn't mean that you're not going to chew that piece for 3 hours to finally get it to go down. So that's how I made version 1. Now, I'm going to cook the other half in a couple of days, and I'll record that. And I'm going to make the meat taste differently in that one than I do in this one. And that's the only difference. I'm going to follow the same, exact procedure, but I'm going to use completely different stuff to put in there, liquid, to make it taste a little bit different. And that's what's going to allow you to run with it. You're going to be able to get brisket and make it any flavor of meat. Some people even put a few drops of the liquid smoke in there. Liquid smoke is one of the better ones to get. Yeah, I think it is Figaro's. And so you could pick the liquid smoke. So flavoring the meat is where it's at when you're using it in the Instant Pot. The Instant Pot's going to make it fall apart tender, but it's going to make it dry, dry, dry. So we're going to circumvent that and cut it up, make it cold so we can cut it up, and then put it back in for 35 minutes minimum. Longer? No problem. Because after you serve it and you've got leftovers, enough maybe for a meal or two for one person or two people, okay, you're going to take the juice, you're going to take your meat, you're going to put it in a Tupperware in the fridge. That means until you eat it again tomorrow, it will be soaking, soaking, soaking. There's the secret to making whatchamacallit brisket that doesn't suck in the Instant Pot. So the links to all my stuff is down in the description. Using those links helps me. It really does. So use the links if you're going to buy the Instant Pot. Obviously, you're not going to use a link to buy the brisket. The brisket is a brisket flat cut. That's it. Peter Gregg, Miami, Florida. Peter's Kitchen. Bye.
You have just watched another Peter Gregg video. Something warm, human, and wonderful happens when you watch Peter Gregg. Thank you for watching.